Hey my friends, there's a couple things that I want to address before we jump into today's video. The first is that if you want to catch me live streaming, I'm moving everything over to Twitch, twitch.tv/UFDisciple. Link's going to be in the video description. Come over there, we can chat. Like, I'm going to be doing live streams over there from now on instead of here on YouTube, so do that. But then secondly, I'm leaving South Africa again. I have to go back to America today. I'm literally recording like 5 or 6 videos so that I can hop on a plane. We can still get videos out while I'm in the air. So yes, I'm going to be back in America. New videos from different locations is what's going to happen again. My goodness, it is not a good time to be Intel. Like, oh my goodness, with the 10 nanometer delay, which has been delayed multiple years in a row, we're getting Whiskey Lake on 14 nanometer, which is just another Skylake refresh. And then we're also getting Cascade Lake on the high-end desktop. And then there's the fact that like AMD is coming up hot. Zen Plus was a great release. Ryzen 2000 is absolutely slapping them. Like they're on par with Coffee Lake chips. It's really good. And then there's the news that we're going to be getting a Z390 chipset that could potentially not support the Coffee Lake chips that we already have, or there's new Coffee Lake chips that can't be on the Z370, they have to go on Z390. Intel's just in a weird place, which is why they're picking up people like Raja Koduri, Chris Hook, and Jim Keller. So now we have news from Intel themselves. They announced end-of-life plans for Kaby Lake-X processors. And in case you don't remember what the Kaby Lake-X processors are, you'd be forgiven because they were giant pieces of crap. I mean, basically Linus got 2 million views because he was crying in the rain because of how stupid a move it was by Intel. Like, this is just icing on the cake of the like clearly Intel doesn't care about consumers contest that they were having with other companies. Like, they were just like, I wonder what product we can release that nobody wants to use. Let's do a 7740X and a 7640X. So those chips were basically the 7700K and the 7600K, but on a bigger die. That's it. What's the advantage of that? Better overclocking? It's still the same issue where they use crappy thermal interface material. You still had to delid them to get the best performance out of them. They're not even a soldered version like AMD has with their chips. Like, you have to actually still put this under stress to get the best performance out of it. You just have a bigger die size to dissipate the heat a little bit better, but the fact that they didn't even use soldering means that you still weren't getting the best out of the chips in the first place. And then when you put it on a board like an X299 motherboard, it got rid of all of the functionality of what an X299 motherboard was. Like with AMD, when they released Threadripper, the 1900X, which was an 8-core, like, it's basically the high-end desktop version of the 1700, 1700X, and 1800X. Like, same chip, basically, same idea, 8 cores, 16 threads, 8 cores, 16 threads. You still got all of the advantages of the X399 platform. You still could have 8 sticks of RAM, you still got quad channel memory support, you still got the 64 PCI Express lanes that come with Threadripper. Like, everything that AMD did with their 1900X, yes, it's the same idea as the 7740 and 7640X, but implemented in the correct way. When Intel did the 7740X and the 7640X, you got rid of half the DIMM slots, you could only use the right side of the board, and you still only got dual channel memory, which is the exact same thing that you got on the Z290 or Z270 chipset. But then you didn't even get extra PCI Express lanes. It was literally the exact same flipping chip on a bigger die. There was no reason for it. There was no reason for Intel to release these. The only people I know at all who might have been even slightly interested in these things were extreme overclockers, because guess what? The bigger die size means more cooling, and like, there were a couple advantages to them, that you could hit higher frequencies on liquid nitrogen, not actually higher frequencies when you're like stock cooling them. You're still getting like 5 gigahertz, 5.1, 5.2 at the most. You're not hitting anything exceptional. And then when Intel releases Coffee Lake, 2-3 months later, they're completely obsolete chips. Who wants a 4-core, 8-thread, high-end desktop chip with no PCI Express lanes, no quad-channel memory support, when you can get a 6-core, 12-thread 8700K that performs just as well, if not better, because you can hit 5.3 gigahertz on the dang chip? Like, all of this just went to show how Intel was not at all paying attention to the consumer. It's just this weird setup where I can't even believe that they released it. Nobody could. It made literally no sense from a consumer standpoint. Maybe they were trying to get rid of extra chips. I doubt it, because they probably hardly sold any, if this is an indication of it. They're end of life. So if we read the article, which we'll get to that. This is from a non-tech. It says, Intel this week revealed plans to discontinue its Kaby Lake-X processors. The chips will not be supported by the company's upcoming X399 platform for high-end desktop. So initialization of their EOL, or end-of-life program, is not surprising. Interested parties will be able to get their Core i5, Core i7 processors and LGA 2066 packaging for about a year, but they will need to order the chips by the end of November. Who even wants these? Why does that even matter? Just cut it now. Like, there's literally no reason to buy these at all. Zero. Intel will ship the final codename Kaby Lake-X chips by May 31st, 2019, so technically interested parties have a year to buy these chips if they need them. Who? The only reason I can see to buy one right now is the fact that you could potentially use it for like selling in 30 years when it's like, hey, remember when Intel released this stupid chip? Now it's a piece of history. Here's the dumb chip. Let's put it on display, or let's sell it for $30,000 on eBay. Who knows? This is obviously a really stupid situation. Intel just completely missed the boat with this high-end desktop stuff. I mean, we have information that they're gonna be releasing X399 motherboards, which yes, that's the exact same name that AMD has for their high-end desktop, because AMD, when they were releasing Ryzen, they were like, hey, let's take every naming scheme that Intel has and shift it up one generation so that they have to adjust for next generation. Which is why we have, that's why we have B360 instead of B350, because that's what AMD had with the B350 for Ryzen. Anyways, but Intel apparently with the high-end desktop was like, screw it, X399 is the exact same gosh dang thing, which is a different strategy than what NVIDIA is taking, where it's like, hey, you can't have ROG Strix with AMD and NVIDIA, not cool. Whereas Intel is just like, hey bro, X399, yeah, we're gonna outsell you, it doesn't matter. Anyways, so the point, we know we're getting high-end desktop chips, and it also seems like we would get Kaby Lake-X at this point because that's how they do it. It's always like a generation behind. So like last year, we got Skylake-X with Kaby Lake-X. So like the 7900X is based off of Skylake architecture. So this year we should be getting Kaby Lake-X, which would be like the 8900X based off of Kaby Lake architecture. And then next year it will be Coffee Lake-X with all of that. And then there's also Cascade, like there's a whole, like they shifted down one. So we should be getting maybe hopefully like 20 core processors, like the 89, or no, the 8800XE. I don't know how they're gonna do the naming scheme because they've changed everything. Anyways, the point is that we should still be getting Kaby Lake-X. I don't think this means that the entire platform is discontinued. It just means these two specific dumb as a box of rocks chips will no longer exist. But I mean, this is the entire argument we've had against Intel for quite some time. They released Kaby Lake, which when we knew what was coming with Ryzen and we knew how AMD was performing before that, like we could see that Kaby Lake was just a refresh of what they've already been doing. We got 4 cores, 8 threads, basically no IPC improvement, maybe just a little bit better efficiency and a lot more overclocking on the high end. But then like Ryzen came and was just like, yeah, your cores and threads are cute. The series of events went Kaby Lake, Ryzen, Skylake and Kaby Lake-X, and then Coffee Lake. So Intel had 3 releases in a year, 2 of which made no sense whatsoever. Like Coffee Lake actually is okay, 6 cores, 12 threads, but even that is not the end of the stupidity because we're supposed to be getting Z390 in a couple weeks. That's gonna actually make Coffee Lake obsolete to some extent and not actually, like some of the chips aren't gonna be compatible with some of the boards, and we don't know which way it's gonna work around, but we do know that Intel doesn't have the greatest history of prioritizing what their previous customers have purchased. And so I, for one, am okay to see this happen, but at the same time, like the fact that they even did it in the first place is a huge indication to me that Intel has completely lost the plot as far as like what consumers actually want. I don't see them rectifying that going forward until like the things that Raja Kaduri, Chris Hook, and Jim Keller are actually going to implement and have time to come into effect. Once those balls start rolling, which hopefully will be in like 2020 by the time we get 10 nanometer from Intel, like once that happens, then I could be hopeful that, you know, things might develop in a more consumer-friendly fashion, but I am just not at all hopeful for the way things currently are with Intel. Like, I'm not an AMD fanboy. I would absolutely love to have Intel. Like, the first part of this channel, I didn't touch AMD CPUs. I only had 67 and 7700Ks. Like, that was it. And I'm okay with that. Like, I would be glad to go with Intel again, and I would be happy to not rail on them for the crap that they're doing. But the fact of the matter is that the 7640X, the 7740X all of that was just complete nonsense that they shouldn't have implemented, and just shows that they were not paying attention to what people actually wanted. And that's one of the reasons why AMD is succeeding right now, is because AMD was like, hey, we kind of think we know what people want, and we're going to develop an architecture that's based around what people want and have like software and firmware support implemented afterwards, kind of like what Apple did. They're like, we know you want this, we're just going to give this to you, and then you can thank us later, and we're going to develop the ecosystem around it afterwards. It's kind of what AMD's doing. Anyways, these are just my thoughts. This is my rambling on what is going on with Intel and AMD. I'm not super hopeful for the immediate future with Intel. Hopefully long term, because of the increased competition from AMD, we could see a lot more going on. But I want to know what your all thoughts are. Let's have a conversation around this. What do you think of Intel? What do you think of AMD? What do you think of their current platforms, previous platforms, how they're doing all of it? Tell me down in the comments or in the Discord, down in the Discord community link that's in the video description is what I'm trying to say there. Guys, don't forget that I'm on Twitch. I'm going to the US, and that also you should subscribe to stay up to date on all of our tech related content. Anyways, I'm Brett with the UFD Tech channel. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Cheers.